welcome to the Daily Reset. I'm your host, Teri Taylor, and we are here today with Dennis, the anxiety guy, and I'm really excited. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. I love doing this sort of stuff. It's for an amazing cause, and I know you're going to be impacting a ton of people, and I just hope to provide some value for you today.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for coming to be with us from Bali. Actually, we're connecting across the world, so it's such a great way to connect through this technology, and then go out and share it with the world.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing.
So the Daily Reset, we're here to find ways to calm our chaos, connect to our truth, and love with an open heart. And I had experience with Dennis from his YouTube channel. And Dennis, I was just wanting to go into a conversation with you about what you're up to in the world and how you're sharing about your negative thinking and part of the anxiety that you're really serving the world with to the anti-anxiety pieces that you're sharing with the world.
At the moment, yeah, I mean, there's quite a nice little following going on the podcast and on iTunes. It's doing really well. The YouTube seems to be growing a lot. And I feel like a lot of people out there are able to relate to my story quite well. I suffered from an anxiety disorder for 6 years. That was the peak of my struggles. But having said that, the truth is that I had the anxiety began way back when, during the building blocks of my identity between 0 and 10 years old. Parents, coaches, pressures, that sort of stuff. So the core beliefs that led to the sensitivity that I was feeling for 6 years started very, very early. So the pressures and such. And I feel like a lot of people out there are starting to feel like they have more options as far as overcoming anxiety. But not only that, the old sayings of you can't teach an old dog new tricks, your brain is cemented by the time you're 25 and you can't change things. These sorts of outlooks are starting to become a bit more flexible in terms of the response I'm getting from people. So more than anything, what I truly feel like is making a difference is, and it's not a motivational, inspirational thing constantly. I know a lot of motivational speakers out there. I know a lot of people that say you got to believe in yourself and that sort of stuff. It's not about that. It's really about opening up people's eyes to help them understand that this is a conditioning process that they're under. It's a process. They've created it. And if they can create it, they can recreate something else within them, because the mind is very, very neuroplastic. It's very open to new suggestions and new ways of thinking and perceiving things. And it does it quite quickly, as much as we like to think that it does it very, very slowly. So I think people are realizing, going, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I could shift this and shift that in such a short amount of time. So it's going well.
Like, we're really powerful beings and we don't realize it, right? Like the power to change that can actually happen. You said, that we had started some of this from our young age, and even before we're 10, you have memory of creating your disorder, what you called your disorder, before 10. And was it a moment that you remembered that triggered it for you?
What, for me personally, I know there's two different paths that people take towards an anxiety disorder, but for me personally, it was more characterological, which is a combination of emotionally traumatic events during my childhood that then led to a certain way of perceiving myself in the world. The label I had put on myself, not I, but the label that others had put on myself started very, very early. Okay. By the time I was 12, Teri, I knew what I could do and I couldn't do. I can't do, this I'm okay at. Right. I can only make it this far as this. I'm this smart. I'm not that smart. I can't go into that sort of detail and that sort of depth as far as my brain goes. those sorts of labels and judgments were placed over me, and I believed them because I that's all I had. I was a sponge.
You took it on. Right.
I was a sponge. Yeah, just like everybody else.
Right.
So because of these repetitive, emotionally traumatic experience, my dad was very emotionally, physically abusive. My coaches were very much the same. I was grown up in a professional tennis playing environment. I was supposed to be the guy who made it to the top 10 in the world. So there was a lot of pressure there, and a lot of times I didn't realize if it was my dreams and my goals, if it was somebody else's. So I was growing up my life basically being pushed in one direction and without many options.
Right. It's interesting that you're saying the sports. I've heard that from many people in my life, just like the dedication to the sport or the rigidity or the pressure of the sport. When we think we're doing this thing with our children that's serving them or that they really love, and then they're getting all these really ingrained pathways of some really crazy
Absolutely.
stuff.
It was interesting because there was a time in my life where my conscious mind started to develop, and I started to ask the question, do I really want to do this? Mm-hmm. And the answer wasn't so much that I want to become a professional tennis player. The answer I found within myself was that I was trying to meet a human need of significance, love, and connection. And I found significance and love and connection through the sport of tennis. So when I worked hard, when I got those results, I felt the love and connection and the communication between me and my parents that I truly craved. That's the way I got it. If I stopped playing tennis, I would lose love and connection. I would lose significance. I wouldn't know who I would be. So because of those human needs, I kept working hard, playing hard, because I was communicating, I was getting something back from my parents, and other people saw me as someone. So because of all those factors, that's the thing that really made me stay in the sport for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. Until I got to a point in my life where I realized, hey, if I can create this identity and this character within me, why can't I create somebody else? So then I started to fiddle with the idea of changing thinking patterns, changing core beliefs, changing behaviors, and whether or not it's possible. And I realized it was possible. And then I took that route instead.
Core beliefs. Core beliefs.
Major.
Yeah,
major.
Did you, what was that movie with the core beliefs, the kid movie with the core beliefs? Remember that?
You got to remind me that one later.
Okay, I'll remind you of that one later. Yeah. I think it was a Pixar anyways, but yeah, the core beliefs that really stick with us.
Really important topic. I mean, growing up, actually, in the last couple of years, through neuroscience, through a couple of other sciences and methods and such, I've realized that human beings have two different beliefs. One that they are consciously aware of, like what we're thinking about right now, what we're going through right now, and also the core beliefs, which are underlying within the subconscious mind, that lie in the mind and lie in the body, and therefore become our vibration and our frequency. That's the stuff that emanates and controls a person's life more than anything. It's the core beliefs. Mm-hmm. It's not so much the beliefs that we're currently aware of right now. It's the ones that are underlying. You know how I found those? I started to do affirmations. Someone told me one day, said, you got to do affirmations, Dennis. I said, okay, I'll try it. So there I am. I started affirmations, and I am a beautiful person. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of these sorts of things in the mirror.
Right.
And as I was doing them, I started to get some weird, icky feelings in my stomach. And I started to go, what are these feelings? I'm saying these words constantly, but there's a part of me that doesn't believe it.
So you would say it in the mirror to yourself, and all of a sudden you'd feel a peace in your body that was saying, existing it.
It was in my stomach. There was a hesitation in my mind. I started to develop migraines. I got nausea. Whoa. And just by doing affirmations. Mm-hmm. Because my unconscious mind didn't align with the words that I was speaking. My unconscious mind, related to my core beliefs, said, no, no, no. What's familiar for you is the can'ts, is the this is how far you can go in life. This is what your self-worth and self-esteem really is. So I know a lot of people out there that do affirmations and feel like they fail at it because it's the underlying stuff that we have to take care of. It's the stuff from childhood and the present moments that continue to fuel the ideas that were brought on to us from our past. And those are the things that need to get cleaned up first in order for the law of attraction, manifestation work and such to actually work.
Mm-hmm. So once you had found these pieces, and obviously you've dealt with these pieces and you're moving forward, you have a new reference, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of digging. There was a lot of accepting of what happened and happening. There was a lot of expressing. There was a ton of expressing going on. I remember putting a chair. I mean, the majority of my change work personally came down to what I like to call energetics, which was visualization, meditation, hypnosis, that sort of stuff. So I would have chairs in front of me and I would be screaming at the chairs thinking that that was my dad or that was my coach or that was my teacher who was, sending me all these thoughts and beliefs and these words. And I would converse not only externally with the chair, but internally through my imagination. And it's incredible when I got my five senses engaged and when I got highly emotional in that moment, how I started to detach myself from those core beliefs. And when I started to detach myself from those core beliefs, there was a gray area there. So the subconscious mind started to say, okay, since we're not going to believe in that, what are we going to believe instead?
Right. What did you attach? So you attached something new, right?
Exactly. So I understood that, a lot of the change didn't really happen through the thinking pattern so much, but in fact, by the actions that I took on a daily basis. So it was the actions. It was, going onto a tennis court and saying that I could do this in a recreational way, in a fun way. So I did those sorts of things to prove that, hey, you know what? This isn't a stressful environment.
Yeah.
This isn't a pressure-filled pressure cooker environment. I can enjoy myself. I could have fun here. So the actions played a big part. Combination of the visualization stuff with somatic engagement. I mean, if you saw me before, I would be taking pictures. I'd be shrinking them. I'd be turning them into a little quarter. I'd put it into my pocket. Next thing you know, I would start to view the past experience differently. So it was a combination of the visualization stuff and the actions on a daily basis that reconditioned myself to believe different things about myself. So when that happened, all the doors opened up. I mean, I stopped trying to just change my outside world, trying to change people, trying to control myself, trying to control everything in the outside world, which led to so much anxiety. And then I started to control my internal world. And in turn, the external took care of itself.
Right. Internal to external, inside out.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dennis, you have a very successful podcast, and I wanted to just share with our viewers quickly that Dennis has one of the top podcasts on iTunes in the health category, and he has over 1 million downloads on his Anxiety Guy podcast. And he has been serving the anxiety sufferers and sharing with them what we're talking about right now and what's naturally possible for them on their road to recovery. And this is something that is practical tools in self-mastery. And I love that Dennis shares that his commitment is showing how you can go from looking at the world as a dangerous place to feeling a sense of calm and gratitude each and every day as you create awareness around the main causes of anxiety for you. So your work in the world feels really powerful to me, because this is something that we all suffer from, even though it's not manifested maybe in anxiety, but it's those core beliefs that don't serve us, right?
Totally.
In whatever way they
Absolutely.
show up.
In whatever way they show up. Well said.
Hmm.
They could show up in multiple ways. And the truth is that I know that there's a lot of people in the world that are highly invested in taking those core beliefs and taking your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses and turning them into profit in a lot of ways for them, their agendas and such. So it's very, very important in today's world, in my opinion, to be extremely self-aware of what's going on in your internal world through your thinking patterns, to question certain things that do show up, to question ways of behaviors from other people, to question where time is being spent the most, which in today's world is, we're around media all the time. We're watching reality shows, drama, this and that. We are addicted to that stuff. I mean, we can't get away from it. So, it's very important that any kind of toxicity that leads to a further development of this lack in yourself and this uninspiring way of living gets shed from your life. I'm talking about toxic people because you become the top 5 people that you spend the most time with. Your environments are very important. And these are all things that contribute to justifying the person that you are. So, you see, and that's where we create these self-fulfilling prophecies. You see, I told you I was going to fail. I told you I couldn't do that. I told you the business that I started would fail and that sort of stuff. So it's very important to be extremely conscious in today's world. And what I like to walk around with on a daily basis is this kind of this energy bubble. And this energy bubble can open up to certain words from other people, certain energies from other people that serve me in the right way. And that energy bubble can close if there's toxicity, and therefore I deflect that energy back onto the person or the environment and such. So that's my conscious way of taking care of life on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. So when you say an energy bubbles, what does that feel like for you? I'm like envisioning like a door that says, okay, you can come in, or one that's, closes for sure,
Pretty much.
When I feel negative things, I have to pause or stop so that I don't just react, right?
Totally. You don't want to be thinking through the emotions that you're feeling, which is what the majority of the world do today. They feel anxious, so they feel the need to follow that feeling and that emotion. As far as the energy bubble goes, we are constantly surrounded by this energy field that we bring on to us that is manifesting based around how we feel. So if I feel crappy, my internal world and my organs will eventually feel the wrath of that crappy feeling if it continues for long enough. Not only internally, but if I continue to feel crappy and anxious and depressed and sad and all that sort of stuff and live by the core beliefs that I was told I am, then not only that, but there are tools today that measure a person's electromagnetic energy vibrating off of them within feet of their actual body. So whoever is in the vicinity of me feels what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. The subconscious mind picks up on those energy fields. And so I am constantly deflecting my energy onto other people. I'm surrounding other people with what I'm feeling. So as far as the visual, as far as the energetic field goes, I just, consciously feel like I can open it up and close it at any point in my life. If there are certain thinking patterns that don't serve me in this situation, I'll make sure to open it up, let it out, and you'll see me as if if you hang around me on a daily basis, you'll actually see me do some movements and stuff. I'll push things away. I'll start energy combing to make sure that my energy is flowing all the way down to the tips of my toes rather than being stagnant up here and overthinking. Right. I'll do all sorts of weird stuff. And you know what? It works for me. And apparently it's working for other people from the feedback that I'm getting in the podcast and the videos and such. So we're all winning.
That's the main thing, right? We're all elevating to where we are called to be, or our hearts allow us to be in the time where we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that energetic piece, because a lot of, I think, when we are in our social environment, when we're out in the world, being able to sense that, even if we're not, knowing the person, we're getting different vibrations wherever we're at, and we're outputting.
Absolutely. Exactly. I mean, it wasn't until I finally realized this idea, and it's not just, myth. It's not just these, what are you talking about? Energy. I don't believe in energy. I mean, this is science we're talking about. So these are facts, they're figures, they are very real. And many times we don't recognize these things. A lot of times we don't understand the idea that just because something is outside of your awareness doesn't mean it's not affecting you. So I could be walking down the street, and although my conscious mind is focused on my surroundings, I could easily pick up on the energy that the person that just walked by me is emanating. So energy and frequency plays a big part in who we become and what we do on a daily basis. Absolutely. And it's very important to understand, okay, well, in this moment right now, what sort of energy do I have internally and externally? What am I, vibrating and giving out to the world right now, based around a couple of factors? My thoughts. My thoughts are energy. So a lot of people don't realize that the thoughts, not so much the thoughts that come and go, but the thoughts you entertain, which I call the Qbert effect. I don't know if you've ever played the video game Qbert back in the day.
Back in the day.
Just jumping from one square to the other square. And Qbert effect or spiderweb effect, where you could connect one thought to the other. Next thing you know, it becomes this huge snowball.
Right.
So that creates the energy. The words you express to people create your energy. Your behaviors are energy. Your internal images are energy. Your bedroom, the posters you have, the color of your walls are all energy. The people you associate with are energy. I mean, there's a number of factors here that make up who you are and what your perspective over the world is. But not only those things, but it also makes up your perspective as far as where your life is going. So a lot of people today don't have a clear vision of what they want their life to be. It's very, very vague. It's not specific enough. And the unconscious mind needs specificness in order to guide you in the direction that you truly want. Saying to yourself that I want to be happy, or going to, sessions with life coaches or whatever it may be, and saying, okay, what's your goal? My goal is to be a happy person, or to gain freedom. There is not enough detail there. So it really is, Teri, just jumping around a little bit, it really is a combination of three things. It's a combination of the past and cleaning up all the things that led to your core beliefs and the emotional traumas. That there are many techniques I put out on the podcast and videos to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a combination of the past, combination of the present, which identifies the mindset that you start with the day, the tools that you bring as you go through the day, the amount of self-awareness and self-worth that you have, and the vision, the future. So what kind of vision do you have? I'm a big believer in things like a vision board, which creates external images and words that you want to apply into your life. When you can put together a plan based around the 3-month mark, as far as cleaning up the past, taking care of the present, and having a vision for the future, there's no other way but up from there.
So I love the simplicity of that, Dennis. I mean, we tend to overanalyze, right? And put so many words that you can't understand, and just that is so succinct. I love that. And
practical.
So practical. And being in the present I feel is where we get hinged up beyond not knowing what we want, right? Beyond not knowing what our vision is, and that we can actually make that happen now. But
we're rarely in the present moment. I mean, there's a very good book, I think, that put the that whole idea on the map by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. It's a
Right.
good book. It's a good starter, in my opinion. And it goes far beyond that. But it is a really good realization as to where I'm living on a minute-by-minute basis. Here's the statistic that I came up with as far as my anxiety. So I would spend conscious time, 4 to 6 hours on a daily basis, over worrying and overly concerned about people, situations, future, and all that sort of stuff. And this was conscious, 4 to 6 hours. So that math came out to, on a yearly basis, over 15,000 hours of over worrying, over generalization, over things that never manifested in my life for a long period of time.
Right.
So if I just spent 15,000 hours thinking in a different way, how different would my life be? And
occupying, I mean, that is just such a huge space of energy that we're just wasting on what's not real.
And you said energy. I mean, energy, the way we talked about it, but as well energy resources. I mean, how much energy does it take a person to constantly be fixated on these catastrophic ways of seeing yourself and health anxiety and generalized anxiety in the world? It's a lot of energy. It's really tiring. You know, it's like running multiple marathons on a daily basis, and it's exhausting.
Totally. Or even, over analyzing or holding space for our families and for others, like you said, catastrophic things for the world. There's so many things that we occupy our minds with that are not reality. They're completely not even real in the moment. And
we're never in the moment. On a daily basis right now, we're either concerned over what's going to happen in the evening, what I have to do later on, my to-do lists, what's going to happen tomorrow. We're rarely in the moment thinking, in this moment, what do I truly have around me that I'm truly grateful for? And a lot of people don't recognize how they have, in fact, achieved many of the things that they set to achieve 5 years ago. They don't realize that, hey, wow, I really did purchase this home, or I did make a beautiful family, or I did work hard for a good cause, and these sorts of things. They don't recognize those things that they manifested that are good, and they're constantly fixated on the things that they don't have, or the things of lack. And again, this comes down to the core beliefs that reside in a person's unconscious that many times manifest as feelings. And when I'm talking about core beliefs, it's the feelings that you get. I could easily say in front of a mirror and go, I love flying on an airplane. I absolutely love it. And the next thing you know, as I'm about to walk onto an airplane, I get these fuzzy feelings in my stomach and my head starts to, pound. And that's the unconscious saying, don't go there. Don't go there because you watched the documentary where the plane's roof came off. Or don't go there because, remember when you read that newspaper article and 80 people died on an airplane.
Right.
And so that's where we get a little bit confused and we start to attach an irrational idea based around the feelings that we have, when in fact it's just a signal. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we take this feeling and we say, what could it be? And it starts to manifest as, a little bit stronger. Next thing you know, it turns into a physical ailment, possibly. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I see that often. Just, when we get sick and it's something that's major in our body and there's no reason for us to be sick. A lot of the time we say that it's passed on because of a genetic or we creating our own sickness,
You said it. We create our own sickness. I mean, in today's world, we're told that, things just happen. They just happen. Disease just happens. Physical ailments just happen. You don't have control over your thinking patterns. What you feel is what it is. We live in a society where we feel like We are controlled by circumstances that are far beyond our own control. And because this is the case, we go through our daily lives thinking that we don't have any power over what we're going to manifest or where we're going or how we treat other people. It's just the way it is. Whatever comes up is what it is. And that's a very, very frustrating, bewildering way of living your life. And I had to put a stop to it many years ago when I finally recognized that if someone else could succeed in some area of their lives, why can't I? But I knew I wasn't going to do it through the 99% of content that is currently out there based around motivating yourself, and you got to believe in yourself. In my opinion, belief comes as you do. As you make the choice to step out of your comfort zone, to begin doing things differently, thinking things differently. And when you're in the process of that transition towards a different identity, a new character, that's when belief starts to show up. It doesn't show up in the beginning of the whole, thing that you're trying to create. It shows up as you do, as you partake in the activities. That's why I tell people, anytime you're starting change work, in the first 3 weeks, I see a lot of people quitting. I mean, 90% of people say, I can't. It's not for me.
Oh, yeah. Or they get discouraged.
It's resistance.
Or they get pissed off. They get, they just get angry, all the resistance that comes up. And the important is to go through that to see that what can be on the other side of that, right?
Yeah, I think it was Winston Churchill. What did he say? He said, if you're going through hell, keep going. Keep going. Yeah. If you're going through hell, keep going. And I was, I have to take some positives away from growing up as an athlete, going into a professional tennis career for a short amount of time, because I developed the discipline. I developed the, what I needed in order to counter that hellish feeling. So I was on a daily basis. I was going through hell anyway on a daily basis when I was a child, playing tennis 5, 6 in the morning, not playing well, countering that. And really, when I tapped into the idea that I have these characteristics already, I have the skills, I can do this. I started to move with hell. I started to see my sensations and feelings as companions, as if I was walking the dog, for example. If you want to join me on this journey, go ahead, but I'm not going to fall victim to the way I feel right now because I'm in a transition. One of the most powerful words I used on a daily basis was transition.
Mm-hmm. And companions, they're part of you. Just take them along with you. You can come if you want.
Yeah, because in the first week or two, you'll notice in change work, people will run into 10 times the resistance and get that little amount of progress. And then the next couple of weeks, it'll be 8 times the resistance and, a little bit more progress, and so on and so forth. As long as you stay in line and begin the road towards clarity and further self-worth and further self-esteem, and the idea that things can change internally and externally, there is no choice for things to get better in your life. But we're surrounded by so much lack and so much fear by other people. It's everywhere. And I'm a big believer that the majority of Facebook groups and chats and forums out there should be shut down because it is fueling anxiety. We don't need to talk about anxiety more. We need to talk about solutions. Right. We need to think about transformation rather than coping and managing. This is the problem in today's world. So I'm hoping, I can see that the podcasts and YouTube videos are giving people a better direction, and hopefully that can lead to a lot of positive change.
Absolutely. I think more people, it's like the go-to, right? The podcast or YouTube, it's the go-to for really most things these days. And so to have good material out there, good things that are not just good, but truly transformational messages that resonate with people. And we give people options of different ways for them to process them, because everybody hears a different thing, right?
That's a big challenge as well. I mean, there's just so much information today. Where do I turn, right? Mm-hmm. And, a lot of people out there that say they have succeeded past anxiety, or say they've succeeded in some aspect, if it's growing your business even or something like that, are still struggling, highly struggling. And there is not much truth behind, if I think about it, and I don't want to be very pessimistic here, but if I go on YouTube, and I've done a lot of research on this, and I can truly tell who is where they truly say they are and are making and can make real big differences in people's lives in today's world, it's about 5% of what's on YouTube. All the other stuff is basically, there is other agendas that people have, whether it's money making or significance in some way, which is great. But I think to be able to really connect with someone at a really deep level, you have to go through the journey yourself. You have to get to that better place. And then you have to be truly genuine in your approach towards change. I mean, don't feed people information. There's enough information out there. Yeah. Feed people practical tools. And I always say that if someone tells you what to do, but not how to do it, run. Get out of the room. Don't follow that person anymore. It's leading you in a direction of frustration.
Right. Totally. I so hear that when people are, they're just drawing you in so that you can spend money with them or come to a dead end so that you'll need more. You have to have things that will implement things that actually make change, steps that actually you can implement for your life every day.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, it comes down to self-awareness. It comes down to the idea that, is this information, in fact, anything different than what I've heard before? And is this information practical? Can I use it? I mean, can I use this on a daily basis? That's why.
Sustainable, right? Yeah. Like, is this sustainable? Is this a practice I have every day that's not going to bog my mind down or make me feel like I've got to take so much time out of my day to.
Yeah, exactly. And once that's laid down, I realized that a lot of people make significant progress, massive amounts of progress in their lives, once they've dedicated themselves to moving through hell. Mm-hmm. And not only just moving through hell and just partaking in the same thinking patterns and words and behaviors and internal images that they always do, right. But starting to understand why they have anxiety, where it came from, and what's different that I can begin doing that will present my subconscious mind a different formula to life. And when the ball starts to move in the right direction, it's incredible how people become addicted to this idea of character development. Nothing changed for me until I stopped trying to overcome anxiety and started to build my character. There's a big difference. People are trying to overcome anxiety and overcome panic attacks and their depression when in fact it's a very narrow perspective. Right? And it's a very pressure-filled perspective. There is a massive amount of percentage there that will lead to failure if you take care of just one little aspect. But if you look at it as far as character development, then the road ahead can be an enjoyable one. And you'll look back and say that anxiety or depression or panic or whatever it may be was the worst and the best thing that's ever happened to me because I've molded the person that can make a real difference in not only my family's life and my life, but the world. Right. So it's a different perspective. It's much broader than how we should be looking at things.
Sounds like, like you're actually taking charge. You're actually taking choice in the matter instead of just having those old patterns, those 10-year-old Dennises run you, right? So it's.
Exactly. I mean, how much of the world is going through their daily lives having never updated their beliefs from when they were a child? It's the same beliefs. It's like having a cell phone. It's a cell phone that's been around and the apps aren't updated and you haven't added any apps and you haven't updated your own phone. whatever metaphor you want to use. But looking at metaphors, it's like the road ahead truly looks something like this. It's like being on a train, and we know how good the brakes are on a train.
Yeah.
And the train goes in one way for a very long period of time for most anxiety sufferers out there, or anybody who's struggling through mental, emotional issues. The train has to stop at some point, and it takes a while before that train stops. I mean, the brakes are hit many miles before the train actually comes to a complete halt.
Right.
Then, once the train stops, the train has to go in the other direction. So now we're talking about new beliefs, new perspectives, new ideas of self-worth and self-esteem that starts to grow within somebody. And that train takes a real long time before it actually gets moving quickly. So before it starts to build momentum to go in the other direction. And then it picks up speed. So there's a certain, time frame as far as the train stopping,
right,
moving in the other direction, and then gaining speed and gaining momentum again. So, but if you can see your recovery or your transition or your change work in that manner, you're ahead of most people.
Right. Yeah, approaching yourself so that you actually approach yourself softly. I mean, look at the space and time and what you're going to have to go through in order to switch the direction. It's not just going to happen overnight. Like you said, the momentum the strength behind that train to actually stop it is intense.
It's a heavy train.
Heavy train. Absolutely. It's really kind perspective, actually, so we can, be kind to ourselves and know what to expect.
Those are fantastic words. I mean, perfect perspectives. I think it was in the audiobook, the Tao or the Way of Living. I don't remember, but it was a great audiobook I was just listening to that says that too many people today are too hard instead of being soft, meaning hard to themselves, hard as far as seeing their past, hard on their parents, hard on as far as thought patterns. And the soft perspective is one that really takes you away from over worrying, over stressing, over analyzing, irrational ways of thinking, and putting lots and lots of pressure and heaviness onto your life, and seeing yourself in a more soft way, seeing people around you in a soft way, and being less critical and less judgmental. And that is it's a very important way of living for me and the people that I teach via Skype on a daily basis, that you do need to take a softer approach to yourself, the people around you and the world around you, in order for you to truly manifest and become the type of person you were meant to be. It can't be any other way. I mean, it's your success is not based around your anxiety. A lot of people have connected and created pairings in their minds based around the career that they've created or the relationship that they have. And there's an unconscious pairing there that says the anxiety played a big part in who I am today. The amount of money I make, the people, the friends I have, the acquaintances, whatever it may be. But the truth is that your anxiety has nothing to do with those successes and those aspects of your life. Those successes were based around your drive, were based around your ability to understand information, your ability to put that information into practice. It had nothing to do with your anxiety. It had nothing to do with sometimes identity-wise, people see themselves as a sad person or this person or an angry person. It has nothing to do with those emotions. It's the characteristics, the traits that you have underlying that you should be proud of. So, those unconscious pairings, those associations that we've created in our minds that have grown the neural connections in our brains that are telling us that we are this way because of these things are false.
Right.
And as long as we can recognize those, we can change them.
Yeah, the recognition, the first step, right? Recognition.
It's huge.
Wow.
Recognition. Yeah. So, I'm really excited for the messages that are being put out there now. I hope that more and more people follow in my footsteps, because when I came out, I said that I wanted to be the voice of my initial idea was health anxiety, the idea of hypochondriac, over concerned over certain feelings and sensations that a person feels. And then it grew towards general anxiety and panic and such. But these are all labels that come down to an identity, a character within someone that doesn't serve the way they want to live their lives. And I'm a massive believer that if we can believe that change can in fact happen even though I gave the train analogy, the idea behind this should be that change is possible. Change is possible, and it can happen more rapidly than I believe it can. It doesn't have to take years and decades. And I think the percentage or the facts and the figures right now, as far as one-on-one primitive psychology or counseling, comes down to 7 years of work and you get 20 to 30% success or something like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be that Freudian way anymore.
No, that's old. That's old paradigm. That's totally old paradigm. I mean, the whole thing of, going through years of 10-year counseling because of some episode when you're a child. I mean, like you just spoke into that can, we can clean it up. It's past.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yet present.
I mean, it's such a risky way to go about change work, for the ability to speak to someone about certain past emotional traumas in order for them to hopefully see a different perspective over what happened based around conversation that you're making with them, without giving them any tools for when they leave the session, and what they're going to do with the other 23 hours a day until they see you 6 days later. It just makes no sense to me to leave it in the hands of the unconscious mind that just is so stubborn. It's so stubborn, and it says, you know what? You're going to have to give me something else, to a new direction, a new path, a new form of action. You're going to have to do it consistently, and you're going to have to do it in a language that I can understand. I don't understand words.
Right.
That's why counseling, in my opinion, is the slowest way to get change work. And I'll be totally open with that. Not saying all counselors. I know I have lots of friends that are counselors and psychotherapists that do an amazing job. But for the majority of people out there, they're not getting the results that they want. And a lot of it's not their fault.
Right.
So there are different ways. There are different tools. And more than anything, I just want to be the person that can open up people's eyes to say that, you know what, you have so much of the characteristics and skills already embedded into you that can lead to this great change work. You already have them. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you can start a career out of nothing and embrace uncertainty and really move with hell and take the companion with you, then why can't you do that for other limiting ways of thinking and limiting ways of seeing yourself in the world? You can. You have the skills embedded within you. But and that's a language that I had to tap into. I said I was a professional tennis player. I already have these skills. So why don't I just apply what I did through tennis onto my anxiety recovery and see what happens? And I realized, you know what? It works.
Mm-hmm. Such a practical way, such a way that's possible for everybody. It's there. We all have it within, right? It's our choice. Mm-hmm. And it's just taking the step to clean it up and move through it. So
yeah, absolutely. And one more thing, it's the simplicity of my teachings is something that people can really relate to, because there's so much jargon out there. There's so many different words and approaches that just don't make sense or is overly complicated. And a lot of times in today's world, because of anxiety, there are things like foggy vision. There are things like brain fog. There are things like depersonalization.
All these different buzzwords that come up.
Yeah, and when someone goes through things like this, it can be very hard to grasp even the simplest ideas. So in today's world, things have to be very effective, they have to be very powerful, and they have to be very simple in order to apply. And once that simplicity is applied on a daily basis, then, and only then, are we open to more vast and complicated expert ways of, say, meditation and different thinking patterns and different ways of overcoming belief systems and such. But it's very important to keep it simple. It's very important to take a little bit of information and become an expert at it.
Right? The little first.
Yeah, rather than a lot of information from multiple different people and trying to put it all into a package when in fact you've never proven to yourself before that you can take that amount of information that's so vast and all over the place. And, it's too complicated. People have to take little information, become experts at it, start applying things on a daily basis that go against their comfort zone and go against the emotions and feelings, the instincts of their reptilian brain.
Right.
And start to create change systematically and slowly. And then eventually the belief will come.
I love that. Yeah. What an opportunity you've given people from taking medications and being stuck in their depression and their anxiety and these ways that we've sunken into because of, holding on to core beliefs. Thank you, Dennis. So beautiful. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Such an amazing opportunity that you are gifting the world. So thank you for acknowledging your gifts and showing up and stepping in so that people can take on these practices.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. And thank you for having me on the show. I know that this is going to be a massive eye-opener for a lot of people out there. They should definitely take advantage of all the resources and get in contact with you and me to really create change work the way that it was meant to be created.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, we're both here for you, and we will have links to Dennis's show and ways that you can get a hold of him at a later date if this resonates for you and you just want to connect with him and have questions. So thanks again for watching today, and we will look forward to being with you again. Thank you, Dennis, so much.
Thank you so much. And remember, you are more than anxiety.